Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Zimbabwe's social media has been abuzz all day today as a result of this letter announcing that Army Commander, Lieutenant General Anselmo Namo Sanyatwe has been dismissed with immediate effect. The letter has taken most people by surprise because it appears that it has not followed the proper procedures. But as we can see, it has been duly signed by the Chief Secretary to the President and Cabinet. And many people view this as a demotion, not a promotion. And it is no prizes for believing that this has nothing to do this has everything to do with the current factional war within the party. So who is this now retired Lieutenant General Anselmo Namo Sanyatwe? Well, people will remember him for his involvement in the 1st August 2018 shoot to kill of protesters were protesting the election results of that year. He was named as one of the officers who were involved. And if I'm not mistaken, he was later to be included in the sanctions list. He was promoted by the regime regardless. And in one of his posting, he is boasting that Zanu PF will rule until the donkeys have sprouted horns. Here he is.
Zanu PF ichatonga kuzvika madhokwi amera nyanga. Muchida Musingadi. Apa ndakutaura sakomanda ami. Shashandisa inonzi command 40. Yes. Nyaya yemasapuku waridzi wemusanga tazvigadzira. Amen. Zanu PF. Amen. Pasi nemandu. Security forces saka PC mkuru wemaudondini. Amen.
Well, well, well. Now the picture is beginning to emerge. So here is somebody who has shown beyond all reasonable doubt that this guy is not a Democrat. This whole belief by some people that this so-called Geza revolution will bring about democratic change is a myth. Here is one of Chwenga supporters. No doubt that's why he's being demoted by Mnangagwa, showing his true colors. If he was prepared to issue the shoot to kill orders on the 1st of August to shoot those who had protested that the elections were not free, fair, and credible, I think one will have to be really naive to think if this revolution was to prevail and the Chwenga faction was to seize power from the Mnangagwa faction, no doubt he too would be rewarded by some powerful position, this time a real promotion, not a demotion. And a few months later, the Chwenga administration will face elections, just as Mnangagwa faced elections in 2018, following the military coup in November 2017. Anybody with half a brain would have told you that there was no way Mnangagwa and company were going to keep their promise to hold free, fair, and credible elections. They were not going to implement any meaningful democratic reforms and risk losing power, which they had seized as a result of a military coup in November. There was no way that was going to happen. So the rigged election in 2018, anyone honest enough would have told you that that was going to happen. That was a given. And when some people protested that the elections had been rigged, the regime moved in very swiftly to silence them. And Anselmo, Namo, Muchida, Musingadi, Sanyatwe was one of the senior officials who were entrusted the task of seeing the shoot to kill order through. And he duly performed his task with pride. We are dealing with here individuals who believe that they have the divine right to govern. This is at the heart of our problem. And there are some people who want to keep on pretending that somehow the change of guard from Mnangagwa to Chiwenga would be so significant that we will have democratic values. Zimbabwe will finally enjoy freedom. I think it's that naivety that people have got to learn that that doesn't happen in real life. We cannot pretend that this will ever happen. This will never happen. I've played the video several times of Geza himself admitting that he is looking at Mnangagwa stepping down so that he too can be promoted and become a minister and have a house, have a big car, security guards, etc., etc. Chunu. These are people who firmly believe that by virtue of having fought in the liberation war, they have the democratic right to rule the country until donkeys sprout horns. These are individuals who definitely believe they have the divine right to do so. And in this particular case, they have also the divine right to loot. They fought the war and they've got the right to the choice, to the best choice fruit the country has to offer. I am hoping that the emergence of our friend, Muchida Musingadi, Sanyatwe, will force some people to really wake up to the reality that this so-called Geza revolution is nothing but a repeat of the 2017 military coup. Many people had gone out on the street in support of it, believing that it was going to deliver meaningful democratic change. The truth of the matter is, all it ever did was just remove Mugabe and a few of his close friends and replace him with Mnangagwa. The dictatorship itself was not touched. And so it was business as usual. Indeed, 8 years since the November 2017 coup, many people will admit that the situation is even worse. Corruption has gone into overdrive. In many ways, the situation was never going to be any better when Mnangagwa took over, for the simple reason that in 1980, Mugabe inherited the proverbial 7 fat cows and 7 fat ears of corn. And over the next 37 years, the country's economy had steadily continued to decline. And by the time he was finally booted out of office in 2017, I think there was only one thin cow which could hardly even stand. And so for anyone to expect things to improve after Mnangagwa took over, that was being naive. Yes, the regime has pretended, Mnangagwa has been pretending, in fact, that is one of the reasons why he was trying to justify why he should be allowed to stay in power, even beyond the stipulated two-term limit, because he was going to deliver Vision 2030. He was dragging the nation from poverty to an upper middle income status. Of course, that was nonsense. Anybody could see that. Mnangagwa's Vision 2030 was a mirage. And one of the reasons why, when Geza dismissed the whole thing as bullshit, it really struck an accord with the rest of the population, is because they knew that was true. Few had dared to admit it, but the truth of the matter is, it was true. But is Geza and company going to rescue the nation and deliver good governance? The answer is no, not a chance. They are determined that it is now their chance, their turn to rule. And for those of you who may not have heard Geza speak, I would like to play that video clip of him speaking again.
Aiwaga. Mirani kutauri imwe zvinhu zvinoitika. Hani ndiri kutokutaurira. Kurauza kuti hatina kupusaka because ndiri kutokutaurira kuti tozviziva. You know, takapusaka ndisikakutauriri zvese. We'll deal with this situation at the appropriate time. But ndiri kutotaura kuti commander vaMnangagwa, right? Navachiwenga, handidi, right? Ngava dissolve political bureau. Tikwane isu, varizive chunhu. Ngava dissolve cabinet. Inozinana kazembe, vana soda, vanani. Haumboziuta vane kupaniwa. Vane kambamura, vanani. Why do you hate your comrades? Kune general, kune retired CIO vakawanda, kune retired commissioners of police and other senior officers vakawanda. Havadiwe.
Maybe the president is looking at capacity and capability.
Bullshit. When I'm grade 7, I know capacity and capability. Grade 7. What a beast you're going. Now I was Minister of State, Mangwana Provincial Minister. It's terrible. We are not apologetic about it. Children change. Turn out of being not out of the president. One was motor. One about you don't have a podcast in.
But you've got your own cars. You've got a hotel at your house that you built in Sanyatwe. Why do you want all this?
I want to be rewarded as well, not to be used like a political condom all the time. I'm not a political condom. And urukora wana mahia vaya na vamwa.
The truth of the matter is, the Gaza revolution is about one faction of Zanu PF fighting the other on who should be running the show. They are not fighting to restore human rights, justice, and a democratic Zimbabwe. They're just fighting each other for who should be ruling. We saw this after the 2017 coup. And for us to keep on making the same mistake over and over again is really unforgivable. There is absolutely no excuse for anyone to assume that this Zanu PF faction led by Chiwenga would deliver a democratic Zimbabwe. That uprising set for Monday, the 31st of March, its primary purpose would be to replace Mnangagwa with Chiwenga. How anyone can mistake that for dismantling the Zanu PF dictatorship beggars belief. Now we know that some of Chiwenga's colleagues in this fight, this factional war, are the likes of Muchida, Musingadi, Sanyatwe, who even had the guts of admitting that Zanu PF would stay in power regardless of the people's democratic right to have a meaningful say in the governance of the country. The party would use command vote to rig and stay in power. And he, as he clearly showed, 1st August 2018, he will happily carry out the order of shoot to kill those who dare protest the rigged elections. That is the faction we are dealing with here. How anyone can, in all honesty, believe that he could fight alongside somebody like that beggars belief. We need to dismantle the dictatorship and not give it an excuse for a fresh life. Before I close, I'll just refer to China's comment there. I do not know the exact details of that rally where Muchida, Musingadi, Sanyatwe was speaking, whether it was a Zanu PF rally or something else. But I think the most important thing is the message that he left to his audience. That is the man we are dealing with. And anyone who thinks that you can somehow persuade such a man to implement reforms and put at risk the possibility of him losing power is naive. He will never implement any reforms. Yes, of course, to entice the opposition to participate. Who knows? As this struggle intensifies, they may even come up with an agreement with some of the opposition leaders to form a GNU as the way forward. I can tell you now that if the GNU of 2008 to 2013 failed to implement even one token reform, and the opposition then had the trump cards, including having SADC as the guarantor of the global political agreement, it is naive to think that the opposition, in which Zanu PF holds all the trump cards, will be able to implement any reforms. They will not. The regime may offer them mafia-style offers they cannot refuse. Cabinet positions, with ministerial cars, bodyguards even, everything, everything. As long as Zanu PF retains power and remains the dominant party. I argue all Zimbabweans out there were seriously thinking of joining this so-called Geza revolution on the 31st of March to think twice. Some people have said anyone who discourages the participation must be because they support Mnangagwa. Far from it. Mnangagwa, as much as he would want to hang on, he cannot hang on. Mnangagwa is trying desperately to change the constitution to allow him to stay in power. The constitution is very clear on that point. If he's going to amend the constitution to postpone elections from 2028, when they are due, to 2030, the constitution says he has got to take a referendum to the people. That referendum is then the opportunity for us to make sure that it's either he implements the democratic reforms to make sure the process is free, fair, and credible. And if he does, I can rest assure you, he will not win it. If he does not, then the people of Zimbabwe can turn around and say this process has not been free, fair, and credible, and therefore then it's got no legitimacy. That is the time when we should stand up and fight. To stand up and fight now, even if Chiwenga was to prevail and Mnangagwa was to be frustrated and stopped amending the constitution. If Chiwenga is the Zanu PF candidate in 2028, he will not implement any meaningful democratic reforms. And it will be a repeat of 2018, when the opposition participated to give the process legitimacy. The idea that stopping Mnangagwa, even at the price of having another dictator in the name of Chiwenga, is a price worth paying, is misplaced logic. It's irrational. The problem is we want to end the dictatorship, not to give it another life, even in the name of another dictator. People should know that the Chiwenga-led administration will not hold free, fair, and credible elections. If you had any doubt at all, there is one Chiwenga ally, Anselmo Namo, Muchida, Musingadi, Sanyatwe, who has made it very clear that Zanu PF will have command vote. And that means rigging those elections. And if he's still in the army, if he should get the order to shoot to kill, those who should make the mistake of trying to protest that elections were rigged, he will carry out that order. That is the kind of men we are dealing with here. And the idea that we can carry on with this madness is absolutely an outrage. We should come to our senses. After 45 years of rigged elections, let's put an end to it. Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a good night.